Welcome to Twisted Truths, where betrayal meets brutal payback, and where the most unexpected twists expose what people are really capable of. This story isn't just shocking, it's personal. My name is John Davis. I'm 42 years old and have been a paramedic in Asheville, North Carolina for the last 18 years. I've pulled bodies from car wrecks, revived addicts on bathroom floors, and held the hands of dying grandparents when no one else could. I've always trusted my gut, it's what keeps people alive. But the day I smelled that chicken salad, I realized too late that I should have trusted it at home, too. Natalie and I had been married for 5 years. We met at a bookstore cafe, both reaching for the same overpriced paperback on holistic healing. She laughed. I offered it to her. She declined. Instead, we sat, sipped coffee, and talked until the sun went down. I was drawn to her calmness, her gentleness. She seemed like the kind of woman who'd light candles during storms, who could heal a soul with soup and kind words. But love has a way of dulling your instincts. You ignore the red flags when they wave politely. At first, Natalie was everything I thought she was. Thoughtful, supportive, always packing lunch for my shifts, quinoa bowls, lentil stews, healthy stuff I never ate before her. And she cared, or so I thought. I'd come home after pulling a kid from a fire or watching someone die, and she'd be there, silent, listening, holding my hand. But over time, her warmth cooled. I blamed my schedule. She blamed the system. "You're just a band-aid, John," she said once over dinner. "They break themselves again the next day. You're not saving anyone." I laughed it off, but it chilled me. Then came the weird shifts in behavior. Moved items. Deleted voicemails. She started throwing away things I loved, saying they were old or clutter. Including a hand-carved mug my late mom gave me. She claimed it cracked in the dishwasher. It hadn't even touched water. "We stopped sleeping in the same room 3 months ago. You snore too much. It disrupts my circadian rhythm," she said, lying on that natural latex mattress she researched for 2 months. She'd recently started a nutrition certification online and joined forums where people discussed resetting the body through targeted discomfort. I brushed it off. Everyone gets weird online. But then came the chicken salad. That day, I came home after a 14-hour shift, 2 heart attacks, 1 overdose, and a grandmother who died alone. My head pounded. My eyes felt like sandpaper. All I wanted was to eat and crash. Natalie smiled when I walked in. That alone should have warned me. She hadn't smiled like that in months. "You said you loved my chicken salad," she said, setting the plate down gently. "Eat while it's cold." The moment the plate touched the table, my stomach turned. It looked normal, white chicken chunks, a little celery, herbs. But the smell hit me like a back alley dumpster on a summer afternoon. Sour. Tangy. Wrong. I'd smelled that scent before, in moldy fridges of abandoned apartments. In kitchens of overdose victims. This wasn't food, it was a warning. "You not eating?" I asked as casually as I could. "Oh, I already had some," she said, slicing fresh turkey onto sourdough for her own lunch. That's when something in me clicked. Natalie was eating a different meal. A fresh one. "I'll wash my hands first," I mumbled, heading to the bathroom. I splashed cold water on my face, gripped the counter, and stared at my reflection. She was watching me. Waiting. For what? When I returned, she was seated, her own food untouched, watching me intently. I sat down, lifted the fork, and gently pushed aside a piece of chicken. Underneath, I saw grayish streaks. Wilted greens. An oily film. And the smell, it was worse now. My heart pounded louder than the silence. Still, I said nothing. Just stared at her. She hummed a tune while she sipped water. "Something wrong?" she asked. I shook my head. Just tired. But my hands were shaking. I had seen abuse. Gaslighting. Neglect. But I never imagined I'd be living it, in my own kitchen. And still. I wanted to believe she made a mistake. That the chicken was bad but unintentional. That maybe, just maybe, I'd imagined the malice. But then she said it. Casually. I put in some special ingredients. Some really good stuff to help your stress levels. Just herbs. Natural. And just like that, the part of me that trusted her snapped. I didn't eat a bite. But I also didn't throw the plate away. I needed her to believe I might, just might, go along with this. I rinsed my hands a second time and stared at my pale reflection. What had I missed? What kind of person sits across from their husband, smiling, while serving them food laced with God knows what? I sat back down at the table. Special ingredients? I asked, keeping my voice even. Natalie lit up. She was excited. I've been reading about gut biome resets. Most people don't even realize their bodies are full of toxins. I added some aged protein, like in old world diets. And a blend of herbs that enhances absorption. All natural. I felt bile rise in my throat. You're saying, you intentionally used spoiled food? Her smile wavered for a split second. It's not spoiled, John. Just not refrigerated in a way your gut's used to. This is how humans used to eat. Your body's too soft. I stared at her. She wasn't joking. She believed it. This wasn't just neglect or mood swings. This was planned. Methodical. I stood. Walked back to the sink. Washed my hands again. It was mechanical now, an instinct to do something, anything, to stay grounded. You seem tense, she said behind me. I turned. Natalie, have you been putting things in my food before? Silence. She looked at the floor. Then back up at me. Yes. Just like that. No hesitation. I've been microdosing nutrients for months. Low-dose iron. B-complex. Even mild digestive herbs. You've been under a lot of stress, and you weren't taking care of yourself. I nearly dropped my glass. That's not your call. You're my husband, she said, frowning. If I don't help you, who will? But you didn't tell me. She looked offended. You would have refused. Damn right I would have. That night, I locked the guest room door and barely slept. My stomach turned just thinking about everything I'd eaten over the past year. The fatigue. The nausea. The foggy mornings I chalked up to shift work. I had thanked her for taking care of me, while she slowly turned me into a test subject. And I started remembering other things too. Days I'd come home from work and found her watching hours of online videos about holistic reprogramming. Her arguments about pharmaceuticals. Her notes in strange handwriting taped to the fridge, build resilience, not weakness. Pain is proof the process is working. I thought it was motivational. But now it looked like warning signs I ignored. And worst of all, I didn't tell anyone. Not my brother. Not my coworkers. Not even my own doctor. Because I felt ashamed. Ashamed that I hadn't seen it. That I'd married someone who could do this and called it love. In the morning, Natalie acted normal, like nothing happened. I told her I had an early call. She kissed my cheek and handed me a smoothie. I threw it out 3 blocks later. My shift that day blurred into static. Everything felt off. I walked through my routine like a man underwater. At lunch, I sat alone in the break room, staring at the vending machine like it held answers. Hey, my partner, Angela, said. You all right? I nodded. Didn't sleep. You've looked off for weeks. She wasn't wrong. I wanted to tell her. I almost did. But who would believe me? That my wife had been poisoning me with spoiled food and herbs she bought on shady websites. That night, Natalie made dinner again. A vegetable stew. It smelled earthy. But not spoiled. Still, I couldn't bring myself to touch it. I made an excuse and went to bed early. Locked the door again. And stayed awake staring at the ceiling, alone in the dark, trapped in my own home with a woman who thought she was saving me by slowly breaking me. This wasn't marriage. This wasn't love. This was control. And I realized something else. I'd spent my entire life helping strangers on their worst days, rushing in with sirens and bandages and hope, never imagining that one day I would need saving from the person who promised to love me most. And no one would hear my siren. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done since Natalie and I got married. I went through her office. I waited until she left for her yoga class. She always took the scenic route and stayed out for at least 2 hours. I told myself I needed clarity. Closure. Proof. But the truth was simpler. I was scared. I needed to know what she was truly capable of. Natalie's home office was minimalist, white walls, plants, wellness books. Peaceful. But behind that serenity, I felt something dark humming beneath the surface. Like a mask too tightly glued to a face. I started with the drawers. Bills, herbal supply receipts, holistic magazines. Then I found the first binder, neatly labeled in cursive, protocols. Inside were dozens of printed articles from fringe nutrition websites. Some had titles like, Breaking the Immune Cycle, or How to Rewire Your Husband's Gut. Notes were scribbled in the margins, Natalie's handwriting, obsessive and manic. Try chicken rotation, 4 to 6 days unrefrigerated. Combine iron plus spoiled meat, immune breakdown equals rebuild. He's strong, but too compliant. Needs to feel it. My hands started to shake. These weren't just theories. These were plans. Next drawer, a mason jar labeled Batch A, May, wrapped in paper towels. Inside, what looked like old, graying chicken fat. It smelled like death in a bottle. She had kept samples. I opened a second notebook. It was structured like a scientific journal. Observations, dates, doses, and reactions. I flipped to a section marked with a star and the name. J, symptoms noted. I read my own life like it was a lab report. March 5, 24-hour fatigue post-stew, added age time plus spoiled lentils. April 12, nausea and irritability, possible breakthrough. May 9, cold sweats, skipped dinner. Need stronger batch. June 4, success. Chicken salad triggered gag reflex. Waited for reaction. I stood there frozen. She had been documenting my suffering. Treating my body like a hostile subject. My marriage wasn't a partnership, it was a petri dish. Then I saw it, an envelope, tucked behind the binder. My name written on the front in blue ink. I hesitated, then opened it. Inside was a typed letter. If you're reading this, it means the process has either failed, or succeeded beyond what I hoped. You're probably angry, confused, maybe scared. But please understand, I never did this to hurt you. I did it to wake you up. You spend every day fixing broken people, but you never stop to see what's breaking you. You are numb, John. Detached. I had to show you what pain feels like. The kind that doesn't bleed. The kind that grows. You won't understand this now. Maybe not ever. But I love you too much to let you stay asleep. My vision blurred with rage. Love doesn't look like this. Love doesn't hide under rotting meat and iron pills. I snapped photos of every page. Every note. Every jar. Every label. Then I carefully placed everything back as I found it. The house felt smaller now. Like a crime scene that still pulsed with the suspect's breath. Natalie returned later that afternoon, humming as she unpacked her groceries. Organic kale. Herbal teas. Supplements. I asked her casually, "What's this one?" pointing to a bottle. "Oh, just something for immune rejuvenation," she said with a grin. "Want to try it?" My stomach turned. I knew then what I had to do. No more hoping she'd stop. No more wondering if I was crazy. I had proof. I had motive. And I had one thing she didn't know I had. A plan. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was scared, but because I was focused. For the first time in weeks, I felt clarity cut through the fog Natalie had wrapped around me. I knew who I was. I wasn't just some experiment. I was a man who had been manipulated, slowly poisoned, and emotionally abused. And I was done. Natalie thought I was weak. Passive. Too tired from work to question her twisted sense of wellness. She mistook my silence for surrender. That would be her first mistake. Her second would be underestimating what a paramedic knows about collecting evidence, and staying calm under pressure. I started the next morning with small moves. I bought a second phone. A cheap burner. One I could keep on me at all times, separate from our shared billing plan. I downloaded a call recording app and voice memo tool, simple, silent, and always listening. Then I called my brother Kevin. "John," he asked. "You okay, man?" "Not really," I said. My voice cracked, just a little. "But I need you to listen, and I need you to trust me. If anything happens to me in the next few days, anything at all, check your inbox. And call the police." He didn't ask questions. Kevin and I had been through too much as kids to waste time on doubt. Next, I began documenting everything. Every jar in her office. Every note with dosages. Every time she offered me something to eat or drink, I photographed it, recorded it, and if possible, saved samples, sealed, labeled, and placed in a cooler I stored in my car trunk behind my trauma kit. Then came the most important part, drawing her out. Natalie had stopped pushing me for reactions. She thought I was resisting her treatments out of stubbornness. But what if I suddenly seemed open? Over the next few days, I played along. Not too eagerly, but enough. "That tea you made the other night. I think it helped," I said on Thursday. Her eyes lit up. "Really? I could make a stronger blend." "Yeah. Maybe," I said, feigning hesitation. "It's weird, but I think I've been too dependent on sterile food. My gut doesn't even know what to do with real stuff anymore." Natalie reached for my hand, touched it gently. "That's exactly what I've been trying to tell you." I forced a smile. "You were right." She made another treatment that night, some fermented root mash mixed into a smoothie. It stank like wet compost. I didn't drink it. Instead, I poured it into a sterile sample jar, sealed it, and dropped it off anonymously at the county lab with a fabricated tip form. I knew the tech who worked nights. I marked it, possible foodborne contamination. Request toxicology. Next, I needed something stronger. A confession. That weekend, I casually set my phone to record during dinner. "So," I asked, "how did you know how much to give me? I mean, what if it had gone too far?" Natalie giggled like I'd asked if she used too much salt. "Please." I tested everything on myself first. Tiny doses. And I researched carefully. It's not poison, John, it's food. Just older. Stronger. And the supplements? All natural. Just enhanced. Some help digestion, some build resistance. You'd be amazed what a little bacterial stimulation can do for your gut lining. Bacterial stimulation. That would play very well in court. 2 nights later, the lab tech I knew called from a blocked number. "I shouldn't be saying this," she whispered. "But that sample you dropped? It had dangerously high levels of Salmonella, E. coli, and iron supplement concentration. That could have hospitalized someone." "Thanks," I said. "That's exactly what I needed." I saved the voicemail. Filed it next to the recorded confession. Added the lab report copy I'd picked up the next day under the pretense of a community food safety concern. Natalie was still humming in the kitchen like she was saving me. But what she didn't know. I was building a case so airtight, no jury would ever call it anything but what it truly was. Premeditated. And I wasn't just going to escape. I was going to make sure no one else ever drank from her poison cup again. The day I set the plan in motion, it rained. A steady, quiet drizzle that blanketed the streets and made everything feel muted, like the city itself was holding its breath. Natalie loved days like this. She said it was cleansing energy. I used to agree. But today, I was waiting for it to wash her away. It started with a simple lie. "I've been thinking," I said as she handed me a small bowl of what she called her healing porridge. It smelled faintly of vinegar and herbs. "Maybe you were right all along." She blinked. "About what?" "About me. About needing to be broken down. Rebuilt." She tilted her head, cautious, but intrigued. "I always knew you'd understand. Eventually." I nodded and even forced a small, fake laugh. "It's weird, but I think I trust you again." That was the moment she fully let her guard down. That night, I told her I wanted to document my healing journey. That I'd been inspired to share it. Maybe even blog about it like the wellness influencers she followed. I said we could make it a project together. Her face lit up. Yes. We could finally show people how real healing works. Our story could help so many. She didn't realize she was about to narrate her own downfall. I placed a hidden camera in the kitchen, disguised as a fancy organic honey jar I knew she'd never touch. I positioned my burner phone in the bookshelf. I started wearing a voice recorder in my jacket pocket whenever we spoke. And every day for the next 5 days, I gathered more. More video of her preparing meals, sprinkling unmarked powders into food. More audio of her describing her microdose regimen. More photos of questionable ingredients, rancid meats, expired herbs labeled not for ingestion. And I saved it all, time-stamped, labeled, backed up in 3 cloud drives, and sent to my brother Kevin. By Wednesday, Natalie was deep in it. She had no idea I was baiting her. "You've progressed so much," she told me that night. "Your skin's clearing up. Your aura feels more aligned." I almost laughed. I wasn't aligned, I was armed. The next morning, I visited Officer Dana Wells, a patrol cop I'd known for years from the EMS circuit. She'd pulled me out of more than a few tight scenes in the field. I handed her a flash drive, still sealed in an evidence envelope. "What's this?" "My wife's nutritional plan," I said. She raised an eyebrow. "John, if this is a bad joke." "It's not. Just watch the videos. Read the notes. There's lab evidence, a toxicology report, and a recorded confession. I'm not asking you to believe me yet. I'm asking you to open a case before someone ends up dead." She didn't say much. Just took the envelope and told me she'd get it to the department's lead investigator. I went home. Ate nothing. Slept with the door locked. The next afternoon, I got a call from Detective Monica Graves. "Mr. Davis. We've reviewed the materials. This is serious. If you're willing to give a formal statement, we'll pursue charges." I was more than willing. 2 hours later, I sat across from Graves in a quiet interrogation room and told her everything, from the first bad meal to the binder of protocols. Every page. Every pill. Every sleepless night. She nodded slowly, her eyes hard. You understand this isn't just food tampering, right? This could be charged as attempted poisoning. Depending on the outcome of the ongoing tests, possibly even attempted murder. I nodded. I understand. They gave me a wire. The next night, Natalie made dinner again, her version of soup. I let it sit in front of me, untouched, then slowly stirred it. I've been wondering, I said casually, voice steady despite the storm inside me. That chicken salad from last week. What exactly did you add to it again? She smiled, almost wistfully. Oh, that was one of my better blends. Aged poultry, fermented root, and that supplement powder I told you about. You said you tested that? Of course, she nodded. I'd never give you something I hadn't tried first. It's not dangerous, not really. Just, uncomfortable. And the porridge? That one's stronger. It helps flush your system. The bloating's normal. It means it's working. And there it was. The final piece. The next morning, Detective Graves and 2 uniformed officers showed up at our front door. Natalie was wearing a lavender wrap and sipping her usual herbal tea. She smiled as she opened the door. Oh, officers. Is everything okay? We have a warrant to search the premises, Graves said. And we need to ask you to come with us for questioning. Natalie's smile cracked. She looked at me, confused. I didn't say a word. As they placed her in cuffs, she looked around like the world had betrayed her. I was healing him, she said, louder. He thanked me. No one answered. No one believed her anymore. Natalie's arrest made local news by nightfall. The headline was clinical, almost cold. Wellness coach arrested for alleged food tampering, husband's statement triggers investigation. But inside our house, it wasn't over. Not even close. Because while Natalie sat in a gray-walled interrogation room telling detectives her homemade concoctions were holistic healing protocols, I received a call from her sister, Lacey. You happy now? She snapped before I could say a word. You've ruined her life. She tried to poison me, Lacey. She was trying to fix you. You're the one who's always been broken, burned out, cold, working those disgusting jobs with addicts and drunks. Natalie told us everything. You were slipping into darkness, and she was trying to save you. My stomach turned. She told you? Of course. She told me she was helping your body reset. That she had to be subtle because you didn't believe in natural medicine. We supported her every step. Wait, I said, my pulse spiking. You helped her. Silence. Lacey faltered. We talked through ingredients. I told her about certain herbs I used for my husband's migraines. That's not illegal. You knew she was giving me spoiled meat, Lacey. Click. She hung up. But not before confirming what I suspected. This wasn't just Natalie's twisted project. She had help, enablers, cheerleaders who encouraged her behavior and masked it as love. A few hours later, Detective Graves called. You were right, she said. We found the notebooks, samples, even labeled jars of fermented meat stored in sealed containers marked with your initials. And the lab analysis confirms, some of it had toxic levels of pathogens. Others included iron supplements dosed 5 times over the daily safe intake. She paused. But John, here's the thing. She kept everything. Including emails with her sister. Including scanned notes of your progress. She treated your life like a project report. I felt cold down to my bones. Will she be charged? Absolutely. We're filing for reckless endangerment, food tampering, and possibly conspiracy to commit assault, if we can tie her sister into this. Do it. That night, I went into the kitchen one last time. I pulled everything from her cabinet, every jar, tincture, powder, and pill, and tossed it all into a garbage bag. I didn't even flinch when I dropped the whole thing into the fire pit in the backyard. And yet, the twist wasn't done with me. Because when I checked my inbox the next morning, I found an email forwarded to me by a friend who worked in the hospital's legal department. It was from Natalie. To a wellness blog. It was scheduled to go live the day after her arrest. Title: How I Tried to Save My Husband from the American Medical System, and He Tried to Jail Me Instead. It read like a manifesto. Long paragraphs about toxic masculinity, modern medicine's failure, and how she was forced to act in silence to prevent my spiritual decline. She included quotes from her notebooks, carefully stripped of their most damning lines, and painted me as a burned-out medic on the brink of collapse. She even claimed I begged her to fix me. It was fiction. But dangerous fiction. Because all it would take was one viral article for her to start controlling the narrative. I contacted Detective Graves. You need to see this. She called me 10 minutes later. That blog post violates the no-contact order and could tamper with public opinion. Don't worry, we'll shut it down. And they did. A cease and desist was issued before it ever published. But something had changed in me. Something irreversible. Because even though she was out of my house, even though she was wearing an ankle monitor awaiting trial, even though the evidence stacked against her was enough to bury her in court, I no longer trusted peace. Not until final justice came. Not until she paid for every slow, silent wound she called healing. The trial date was set for 6 weeks later. I marked the calendar in red, not because I needed a reminder, but because I needed to see it. To know there was an endpoint to all of this. A day where the truth would be said out loud, in front of strangers, under oath. Natalie was charged with reckless endangerment, felony food tampering, assault with intent to cause harm, and obstruction, for attempting to publicly distort the facts with that blog post. Her sister, Lacey, was issued a subpoena after investigators uncovered emails titled "John Won't Even Notice," "Gut Reset equals no permission needed," and, "If he gets sick, that's part of the detox." She tried to claim ignorance. But the evidence didn't lie. The courtroom wasn't packed. Just a handful of observers, court staff, and one local reporter who had been following the case. I sat at the front, my brother Kevin beside me, hands folded, jaw tight. When Natalie entered, she looked small. Gone was the confident wellness guru. She wore a beige cardigan, no makeup, and a look that said she still didn't believe she'd done anything wrong. When the prosecutor played the audio clips, of her gleefully describing aged proteins and iron loading, she flinched. But when the video showed her sprinkling unmarked powder into my food and calling it a micro-experiment, the jury sat stunned. Her lawyer tried to spin it. She believed she was helping him. This wasn't violence, it was misguided care. But then came the lab reports. The toxicologist. The psychologist. My medical records from the months I'd reported recurring nausea, fatigue, and stomach pain. And finally, me. I took the stand. I spoke clearly, slowly, looking straight at the jury. She told me she loved me, I said. And maybe in her mind, she did. But love doesn't lie. Love doesn't hide ingredients. Love doesn't watch someone suffer and write it down like a recipe. There was silence in the room. You could hear the air conditioner hum. When I stepped down, I didn't look at her. I didn't need to. The jury came back with a unanimous verdict in under 2 hours. Guilty. On all counts. The judge, a woman in her 60s with a stern, compassionate face, looked directly at Natalie before delivering her sentence. You violated not only the trust of your husband but the ethical boundary between care and control. Your actions were methodical, premeditated, and dangerous. You weaponized wellness. That is not love. That is abuse. Natalie was sentenced to 2 years in prison, with an additional 3 years of probation and mandatory psychiatric evaluation. Lacey was fined and barred from practicing or advising in any nutritional field for 5 years. I didn't celebrate. I didn't smile. Justice wasn't joy. It was silence returning to my life. A few months later, I sold the house and moved closer to the station. Smaller place. Simpler life. I started cooking again, nothing fancy. Just things I could name. Ingredients I could trust. Some nights I still wake up in cold sweats, thinking I'm back at that kitchen table, being watched. But those moments pass faster now. I'm in therapy. I journal. I go hiking on my days off. I even started speaking to new paramedic recruits, about resilience, red flags, and how abuse doesn't always look like bruises. Sometimes it smells like dinner. About 8 months after the trial, I got a letter. Handwritten. No return address. It was from Natalie. John. I still don't understand why you couldn't see what I was trying to do. I was trying to awaken something in you. You were asleep. The system has poisoned you for years, and I couldn't stand by. But maybe I went too far. Maybe I forgot what it meant to actually ask instead of act. I'm sorry. Not because I think I was wrong. But because I broke something in you. I hope you heal. N. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because healing had already begun the moment I chose myself. And in the end, truth has a way of surfacing. Even if it comes twisted through pain and betrayal. As one wise voice once said, sometimes your greatest enemy was once your closest ally. If this story struck a chord with you, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and spread the word, because justice deserves to be heard.